Hey Doc, welcome back. It's obviously Chris Burfield and Dr. Carrie Sigafoose.
Howdy.
So we're real excited about today's video because we have a really special treat for you in more ways than one, and Dr. Carrie will talk about that special treat here in just a minute. But we've got 10 hours of Sigafoose.
Boom.
And tell us a little bit about this particular. This is an audio series that your dad put out, correct?
Right. It was a tape series initially, but now it is a 8 CD. Well, then it was an 8 CD set, and now it is a 8 digital recording set of 10 hours of Sigafoose. So,
all in MP3 format.
Yeah, and taped over a period of 3 decades.
Oh wow!
It's some of his best talks and some of his funniest talks, some of his most serious talks, you know, that are out there that he loved, that people loved, and he put into a package.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So this is literally 30 years worth of your dad speaking.
Oh yeah.
And just combined into this one single package.
Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing.
It's phenomenal, actually, and everyone is different. Everyone is special, you know. And the one we have for today is probably one of my favorite ones.
Now, some of these actually, because they are 30 years old, kind of sound like that, like an old
they sound like the
record player type
1920s sports announcer. Hi, we're here today to talk to you about chiropractic. You know, it's got a little grain in there. It's all very hearable. If you do get the series and you're like, oh, it's a bad copy. It's not a bad copy. These were taped from tapes that we have now made perfect.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They've all been redigitized. So when he says, like, if it sounds bad, he doesn't mean it literally sounds bad. No. It's just like you're going to have that
grainy quality.
That 1920s style quality to it.
Right.
But it's this is actually one of your dad's most popular products.
It was actually his #1 seller, according to Patsy Sigafoose, my mother. It was the one that they could never keep on the shelves, and none of them have been sold, well, for almost the past year. But prior to that, they got into less selling of the product, so it's been sitting around for a while. It's out there. People have it. You know, people have been asking when are we gonna release it. So
right.
I know they still want it, and it's wonderful. I every time I listen, and I've listened to every single one of these eight CDs a billion times just to write my blogs and to do my Sig Talks episodes, and I learn something new every single time, and I thought I knew it all.
Right. I mean, that's one of the great things about having something like this is that no matter how many times you listen to it, you always learn something new. There was always something like, wow, you know what? I've listened to that thing 20 times, and that's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah. Great stories. You know, growing up Sigafoose, which is a blog post.
Right.
People always say, you know, hey, it must have been great growing up in the Sigafoose household. I mean, what great words of wisdom did your father ever drop on you? I'm like, take out the trash, feed the dogs, don't drive my car, put my tools back. And it wasn't until his passing, sad to say, that I started listening. And tell you the truth, it's a gift to have him with me all the time, but it's an even better gift that he's given me to finally become the chiropractor I always saw in me. And that's what this can do. It can, honestly, and this is not hyping, this can help you be the chiropractor that you know you can be, and not living in a life of mediocrity anymore.
Yeah.
I know that might sound
I believe it. I mean, I've heard it. I've heard the series, and it's matter of fact, my good friend Dr. Tabor Smith, he's been listening to your Sig Talks podcast, and he said, you know, Dr. Carey's been playing some clips of his dad. He's like, dude, like, where do I get more of that from? Because, like, I am just entranced by it, and it, like, fills me up inside when I listen to it, and I just want to go out and freaking save the world. Yeah. So I mean, it's really powerful and really good stuff. What's the audio? Obviously, you're going to give everybody a full, what is it? How many?
About an hour.
About an hour. A full hour of this. There's a link below. You can download it. We're going to actually play the clip for you. Here inside this video, we'll probably put up a picture of Sig and then have the audio in the background playing so you can just listen to it right now. But you can download the MP3 and download it to your phone or your iPod, and
it's our gift to you.
And yeah, it's a gift to you. So, but what is it? What is the clip?
I call
Not the clip, but what is the actual full hour of it?
Yeah, it's one of these. It's number 6.
Number 6,
isn't it? Yeah, it's number 6. And it's not titled. And here, number 6 it's just 10 hours of Sigafoose. I call it the cookie story. So.
The cookie story.
The cookie story, and it's a lot more than just the cookie story. And for those of you who know Dr. Say, you've heard the cookie story, and for those of you who haven't, I'd suggest finding a nice comfy space, sitting down, getting a bag of cookies, and giving this a good listen to like 100 times. It's key. It's money.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, great. So what we're going to do is we're just going to let you kick back and listen to this. As a matter of fact, like Dr. Carey said, if you want to go get some cookies and maybe some milk, and just kind of kick back and for the next hour and listen to 10 hours with Sigafoose.
I never know what to expect from people in Detroit, nor should you know what to expect from me. So it's a sort of a mutual thing, but what we'll end up doing here is have fun, if nothing else. We may not have much information for you, but we're going to have fun. And I wanted to tell you this, sometimes we need to change our attitudes. There's a need, oftentimes, because we come in with sort of fixed ideas, we come in with thoughts that we think are exactly right for us, even if they don't work. Sometimes we just keep our fixed ideas and nothing's happening, but rather than change, we just say, well, that's it. That's the way it is. So we need sometimes to change our attitudes and change where we're coming from, get rid of our fixed ideas. And I had an occasion, of course I have an occasion to fly all the time. I'm in about 15 cities a month. So people say, well, how's your airplane flight? I just say which one. It really doesn't make any difference. And they're all the same now. But I was on an airplane going from Atlanta to San Francisco, and I was a little late, and I was up on the bulkhead, and there was 3 seats up there. So, coming through, it was in Atlanta, I smelled something. I didn't know what it was that I smelled, but it smelled good. And so I followed my nose to it, and it happened to be a woman over there selling cookies, chocolate chip cookies, as a matter of fact. And I said, gosh, they smell good, can I have one? And she said, you can buy a bag, but you can't have just one. So I bought a bag of them, and it was a nice little white bag all stapled up, and I took it and I got on the airplane. And there was a sweet little lady sitting over here next to the window, and the middle seat was empty. I was going to take the end suit, and I decided to take my jacket off. Now, I don't know whether to put it up at the top or just lay it in the middle, assuming nobody will come. So I decided I would put it up on the top. So I took off my jacket, and I said, no, I'm not going to do that. It'll wrinkle up. So I'll lay it in the middle here. So I set my cookies down, put my jacket down, I sat down and buckled up, nobody came, so off we went, and I reached over and got a magazine, and I started thinking about the cookies. So I reached over, and there was this bag, and I opened it up, and I took out a cookie, and I ate it. And about the time I took the first bite, I heard the paper rattle, and I looked over, and there's this sweet little old lady with her hand in the bag, and she took a cookie. So I said, well, that's okay, so we just keep on flying, and I said, boy, that was a good cookie, so I reached in and got another cookie. And I'm taking a bite of this cookie, and I look at the corner of my eye, and there she is. She's taking a bite out of her second cookie. So, from Atlanta to Chicago, she matched me cookie for cookie. Now, you see, I thought, well, that dear sweet thing, she's probably a cookie thief. Or maybe she's having some kind of hypoglycemic problem. She's going to try to save herself. But at any rate, I was thinking how nice it was that she was enjoying those cookies with me. So we got to Chicago, and I'm going on to San Francisco, and she got off, and she walked in front of me, and I looked up, and I said, weren't those cookies great? She said, huh, and she just stomped off. Well, see, my attitude went from that of a sweet, nice little woman to one of an old grouch. And I was hoping perhaps she would have to go to the bathroom with diarrhea or whatever. I was wishing something evil to her, you see, because she ate half my cookies, you have to understand that, maybe more than half, and never said anything to me about it. So she got off the plane, and I was still fussing and fuming, and there's a load of people coming on, and people got over here and sat next to the window, and I thought, gosh, this thing's probably going to fill up, so I better just move my jacket. So I took my jacket and put it on my lap. I looked over there, and there was a bag of cookies. suddenly my attitude shifted back again. So what a sweet dear old woman to let me eat half her cookies like that. So you see, attitudes can shift back and forth, and I'm certain that during the course of tonight, for some of you, your attitude's going to shift over here, and it'll probably shift back here, and it might even jump way over here someplace, because that's the way it is. But if in fact your attitude shifts, or something is said that you don't like, or something is said that you don't agree with, so what? I mean, just accept it and let it do that, you know, and rather than you getting up and going to the bathroom or pretending that you have an emergency phone call, just sit there and endure it, you see. And it's possible that it will get you through that attitude shift back over into another one. It's not impossible that that could happen. So here we are. Now, I want to share this with you because I think it's a pertinent fact. I never really quite understood, although I was one. You see, at one time or another, I practiced with physiotherapy, and Chuck still thinks I do. He thinks this is one of those, what do you call them, TENS unit or whatever? And so I went from using all of these modalities over into straight chiropractic practice. So that was a change of attitudes, and certainly a change of fixed ideas. And then during the course of that time, I sort of stayed away from people that didn't practice the same way I did. Matter of fact, if I knew that somebody didn't practice the way I did, I wouldn't even talk to them. I'd just get away. And I did that for a long time. And I would be offered or asked to go in and talk to a place, and if they weren't exactly what I thought should be online, I wouldn't go. I'd just refuse them. So in the last 3 or 4 years, I started going wherever anybody asked me. And I had been asked, strangely enough, into what we would term mixing camps, more so than so-called straight camps. And I wondered how that was going to affect, number one, them, how it would affect me, and more than that, how it would affect my peers. And I even took some consideration about that for at least 2 or 3 minutes. Then I dropped it and went ahead and did it anyway, see? So the interesting thing was that in going into these particular camps, wherein there is little or no knowledge of that which makes us different, called the philosophy and the principle of chiropractic, I found that they were very willing to listen, very willing to participate, and very willing to accommodate. And so then, finally, I got, of course, you know I talk on the Parker program. I had been talking, and still do, for the last 18 or 19 years at DE. And then I was just asked to go to Texas Chiropractic College. And now, philosophically, we're not exactly alike. But the point is that we're there. And so more and more and more state organizations, North Carolina, and a variety of states that we had always thought were too far on the other side, have invited me to come in and talk, which I think is an inroad. I think it's good, because you see, I don't change my position. They have to change their attitude and their fixed ideas, or they boo me out of town. Because I don't change my position, I can't change my position. But the thing that perturbs me greatly is that in traveling all over the country, I think in 1 month I was in 15 different cities, I found that talking to chiropractors, I realized that there are less and less and less chiropractors. Now that concerns me. And my concern is that though people are calling themselves chiropractors, and they still spell it with a C, that there's something missing. And the missing element is that they're calling themselves chiropractors, but they aren't. Now there was an insidious thing that's going on. That back in my early days, we knew that a person who was using a ton of modalities was on one side, and a guy who was not using modalities was on the other side. But the interesting thing was they both understood what a subluxation was, even though sometimes they didn't correct it, but they knew that it existed. But the thing that I'm running into now is that I'm finding more and more chiropractors not even accepting the subluxation. So that they don't even know that there is such a thing as a subluxation, because they deny it. And what they do is think that in fact there is something called fixation, which is totally different than a subluxation. And so therefore we have people that are out practicing something called chiropractic that is correcting or manipulating spines to break down fixation, having nothing to do with mental impulse or nerve pressure or subluxation. So when I see that, and I see great numbers of that, then it concerns me. I've become very concerned. I wasn't concerned about guys using mixed masters and heaters and coolers and hangman's nooses and pliers and things. I wasn't concerned about that, see. But I am concerned about a guy who looks like me, graduated from the same school, or perhaps from a so-called straight school, who has a license up here, and then he says, I don't believe in a subluxation. That concerns me. Concerns me because there are more and more and more of these people coming out into the field, and as a result of they're not practicing chiropractic and can't practice chiropractic if they live to be 500 years old. Because the practice of chiropractic is but one thing, and that's the location and the correction of a subluxation. And the definition of a subluxation is a bone out of alignment with a one above and below, causing nerve pressure, reducing mental impulse from the brain to the tissue cell. Now, BJ added 2 other factors. I won't go into those, but that's enough. Now, a fixation is none of these things. And so I'm really, truly concerned about chiropractic becoming a therapy. And when I ask people, and I do ask people, if in fact they've entertained chiropractic from the viewpoint that they become ministers of healing. I don't want to be a minister. I want to be a doctor, real doctor. Well, now you see, when I say minister of healing, I take that from the viewpoint that whether you're a real doctor or a phony doctor, that you have the ability to administer healing to people. Not that you do the healing, but you play a role in it. And so then I turn around and I ask people, have you in fact seen any miracles in your office lately? Yes, Mrs. Jones' check finally came in. Well, no, that's not what I mean. See? That's really not what I'm talking about. What other miracles are there? Well, have you seen any healing miracles? Yes, we were out in Tulsa, and Oral Roberts was out there. No, I mean in your own office. Healing miracles in my office? Yes. No, what kind of healing miracle? What are you talking about? Well, that's the answer. He doesn't have to go any further. He's not seen any. And if he hasn't seen any, then I wonder about him or her practicing chiropractic. See, because chiropractic is not just learning the codes. I mean, there's more to it than that. Chiropractic is not just out promoting yourself. Chiropractic is, in fact, more than just having an office full of people. Chiropractic is not just cracking bones. Chiropractic is not technique. Chiropractic is not any of those things. In reality, chiropractic is you and I going in to witness the power of God within somebody, healing them of any disease known to man. That's really what it's all about. So that you and I can find something that is impeding the producer from the product. That's really what it's all about. BJ used a term called unlockment, to go in and unlock something that's locking up the product or the producer from going into the product. Now, it's not hard for me to understand, and I don't know if we have all wives here or if we have wives' tales or what, I don't know. I mean, there's women here, and I know they're not all chiropractors. So maybe I will clarify that just for a moment. How many people are not doctors' wives? Ladies. So I assume that you're CAs. And I also assume that you understand chiropractic, but assuming things has gotten me into a lot of trouble. So I just won't assume that. I'll just act like you don't. And then if you don't, I'll have to clarify what I just said. And if I don't clarify what I just said, you're going to go out in the hallway and say, what did he say? And then the person that you ask will say, I don't know. And so the whole deal has been busted. There's no point in us being here. So that doesn't happen. Let's get into this thing. Let's understand something about chiropractic. Let's walk into chiropractic from a viewpoint that chiropractic is not a limited therapy, number one. Let's get into the idea that chiropractic is not for headaches, cricks, backaches, and the 9 danger signals. And that chiropractic is not for symptoms. If you have the following symptoms, we can handle it. We take care of migraine headaches. Which side? Just right side. No left side stuff. The chiropractic isn't limited to that. And chiropractic is not the practice of podiatry, even though they now have a thing going where you can get a certificate in being a chiropractic podiatrist. You know about that, don't you? Well, they do have that. I mean, they advertise it in one of the books out here. And of course we have chiropractic veterinarians, chiropractic proctologists, chiropractic gynecologists, chiropractic nutritionists, chiropractic electrotherapists, chiropractic counselors, chiropractic... well, there's a guy who specializes in marriage counseling, chiropractic marriage counseling. Yes, he's getting a divorce next week. But you see, chiropractic is everything if you put chiropractic in front of it. How could that possibly be? How could we be everything to all people if you call it chiropractic? And if in fact we are all things to all people, then there's no need for all the other professions. So we can get rid of all the first aid people, called medical doctors. We can get rid of physiotherapists, surgeons, neurosurgeons. We get rid of them all because we are now chiropractic neurosurgeons. Well, we're chiropractic whatever we want to be, right? If you put chiropractic up in front, it doesn't make any difference. Chiropractic tap dancers. Yes, chiropractic masseurs. Chiropractic sewers. But since chiropractic isn't all of those things, then let's find out what it is. Then chiropractic is but one thing, never could be anything else, because if it was something else, it wouldn't be what we said it was, which is chiropractic, which is the location and the correction of a spinal subluxation, which is a bone out of alignment with one above and below, causing nerve pressure, reducing mental impulse from the brain into the body, thus allowing the body to create itself abnormally long enough to create a thing called disease, which now the body gives you a damage or a sign that there is damage called a symptom, and rather than treat the symptom, thus allowing the subluxation to remain and the body to continue to have the potential to recreate itself abnormally, we must correct the subluxation, thus allowing mental impulses normally into the body to allow normal creation versus abnormal creation, which is healing. There you are. Now, if it's that, and only that, then that covers everything. If, in fact, we are understanding that by releasing the mental impulse, it allows a power that made the body to heal the body, that knows how to heal the body of any disease known to man. That gives me a great deal of importance. That gives me one tremendous platform. Because though I don't treat diseases, and though I don't treat symptoms, I do release that power that created you and I, thus allowing it to get to the level of the tissue cell, so it now has the potential to recreate normals versus abnormals, which will allow this body the opportunity to heal itself, or whatever you wish to call it. Now, I just listened to Perot. I didn't know who he was until a couple weeks ago. I thought he was a tuna fisherman down there in Florida. But I found out he does something about research in cancer. And I never thought too much about the guy one way or the other, and he listed 12 causes of cancer. But bless his heart, he listed the 13th being the absence of chiropractic care. Now, how could the absence of chiropractic care have anything to do with cancer? Well, ladies, let's look at it from this viewpoint. Let's just run this through, just slowly. Let's have somebody, anybody, who has a relatively normal spine, who has no nerve pressure, and even if he does have no nerve pressure, doesn't have anything interfering with the mental impulse, which is that message that comes from the brain into the cell. But now all of a sudden he has something that interferes with that message from the brain into the cell, and the cell now begins to produce wrongly. It reproduces abnormally, and it fails to be able to excrete. Now, worse than that, as time goes on, that this body begins to replace itself with abnormal cells over the next week, month, year, no particular symptoms. And so therefore we have no sign that anything is wrong, and yet the body is building itself sick. And the interesting thing is that this body, it takes about 5 years for it to build cancer cells so that it can clinically manifest itself. Meaning that I could look at you clinically and find that you had some sort of evidence of cancer. But the body was creating it all that time. That it's about 2.5 years in the making before we clinically manifest heart disease, and yet the body's creating heart disease. That it takes about 5 to 15 years for chronic diseases to be created in this body by the body before they're clinically manifested. So the point is that then somebody in this room perhaps, or somebody here in your neighborhood or in your office or in your family is at this moment having a body that's creating itself as abnormals, which could ultimately be named. It doesn't really make any difference. You can name it what you want to name it. The point is that the body's building abnormal cells. Now, once it has enough abnormal cells, and this magnificent body then can, at that time, that if in fact the nerve hasn't been destroyed, or if through adaptation it can send a message, then it tells you that something is wrong. It doesn't tell you what's wrong, it says something is wrong. Number one thing is pain, and that's what chiropractors are famous for, treating pain in their own minds. And unfortunately, it does happen that a chiropractor can go in and he can adjust you and the symptom can leave, or he can wire you up and the symptom will leave, or he can heat you. Apparently you're suffering from lack of heat, or if you're suffering from lack of cold, he can put cold on you, see? And it can alter the symptom expression, thereby allowing the patient and the doctor to be fooled into that something good has happened. And so now you're better, Mrs. Jones. But are you better, Mrs. Jones, if in fact you still have a subluxation? If you still have reduction of mental impulse into the body, if the body's still creating itself abnormally, if it in fact is now running rampant, building abnormal cells, even though you don't have a symptom, are you better? Would you be better? Would you like to be better in that manner? Me either. And so what we have to do is understand that, and our staff has to understand it, but the doctor has to understand it, and the doctor has to teach it to his patients and to his wife and to his kids. And he has to teach it, and he has to drill, and he has to talk about it. He has to isolate himself. Even though there are other things out here, he almost has to ignore food, air, water, exercise. All these things we know are necessary, but I can't look at that because it'll take away from my power of getting the message over that there is a thing called a subluxation that I have to find, that I have to correct, and I have to allow the body to heal itself, and I need your help. I need my wife's help. I need my children's help. I need my staff's help. I need everybody's help to help me get that communication over. And so as a result, we work on that. We work on that. But how can we work on that if we're caught in symptoms? How can we work that if we're kinesiology? You know, studying the kines? I mean, how can you be involved in this one scientific journey through life if you entertain nutrition, analyzing one's hair, teeth, blood, all these things that you could go out here and play games with, but you're missing the point and the drive on the one thing that makes you and I different, that allows people to change inside out, locating that thing that shuts off the power from the brain to the body and turning it on again. How can I look at a million things and be perfect in one? How can I look at all these different things and be powerful in one area and have my wife and all the people that I come in contact with bend and yield just a little and lose their fixed ideas and change their attitudes? Or I have to isolate myself. I have to keep myself stuck in one thing. I know there's other things out there, but I'm not going to look at them. And I can't talk about them. Because as soon as I start talking about them, I start losing some power. I can't afford to lose an ounce of power. This is a daily battle. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just getting people to understand there's a thing called a subluxation. I say, you got a subluxation? The husband says, what do he say? She says, hey, I got a submarine in my neck. And I talked to her for 4 hours. You see, so it's just a constant battle, and we fail to use the terminology. We don't want to use subluxation anymore. Don't use subluxation because people don't understand it. You know why they don't understand it? Because we don't use it. How can I expect you to understand what subluxation is and what it means if I never use it? Well, it's that secret word, Mrs. Jones. You've got the secret word up here in your neck. Well, what's it called? I can't tell you. We're not supposed to use it. It's a secret word. So can you imagine? She goes home, she said, I got to come in for the next 4 months. For what? I got a secret word in my neck. Now, how would you expect the husband or the rest of the family to go along with that? And then, you know, the really nice thing is, you sit down in the waiting room, you got an office full of people, you got a new girl, and we didn't teach the new girl. We just said, can you type? Yes. Can you spell? Yes. You're hired. Will you work cheap? You betcha. So we bring her in, and we sit her down here, and we say, go to work, and then we leave. Well, she doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't even know what she's not doing. So she has an office full of people, and she has a soft heart, and she hears the people over here say, boy, I'll tell you what, my headaches, I'll be glad when they start to leave. My chest pain, she says, headaches? Why don't you try? Here's my Tylenol. Chest pain, I have a wonderful heart doctor. Here's his name. Go down and see him. And you come out and there's nobody left. She's referred them all out. There's 3 or 4 ambulances out front waiting to load out. Simply because we didn't take the time to teach her or give her some direction. And then we bring in an associate. I never had an associate that worked. I wonder. He didn't know what to do. He came in out of school, doesn't even know how to spell subluxation. You got 500 people a day, and get in the room, John, start adjusting. He doesn't know where to start. If he's he doesn't know anything. And you expect him to do all this. See, it's training. We've got to learn how to assume the role of being teachers, not just to our patients, but to our staff and to our associates. And so we've got to be able to sit down and talk and talk and talk and drill and drill and drill. Do it, do it, do it, do it, flunk, 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 until he finally does it. I had a girl who answered the phone, see, for 3 weeks. Bless her heart. She was picking up the wrong piece. She kept reporting the phone was out of order. Well, we had to train her which end to pick up. We didn't do it, we just assumed. You see, but don't operate on assumption. The thing about it is this, that unless our folks know what we do and what we expect, they won't do it. How can they possibly do it? You know the thing that's very interesting to me? My daughter, Tina, was raised in my office. I mean, she was there all the time. I used to fall over her. And she became a chiropractor, unbeknownst to me, because she sat out in the front yard under a big magnolia tree and watched people staggering in and being helped in and walking out. And she said, as a child, 3 years old, I want to do that. And so she is that. But it was an interesting thing that she came up to me after about her 2nd year in college, and she said, Dad, when I finish, you're going to have to work with me because I got to learn chiropractic all over again. And I said, no, wait a minute. How come she would make a statement like that? So I asked her, why do you make a statement like that? And she said, because of all the things that I'm being taught by people who don't know anything about chiropractic, it's weakening my position. So I said, you know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to take my own daughter in, sit her down, and train her again. And I'm going to have to drill her. And I'm going to have to see that she's got this thing right. And I have to see that she knows what she's doing. And that's what I did. Now, it's an amazing thing that this can happen. Now, you see, we have children that are raised and being taught by mom and dad what chiropractic is, that have the opportunity to be weakened up in school. Then we have people that we hire off the street who have never even been exposed to chiropractic, thinking that they're capable of doing the job. And worse than that, we hire some guy called a chiropractor that just finished 8 years of being taught by masters and doctorates in everything but chiropractic, and we think he or she knows about chiropractic. Well, I'm here to tell you that neither one of those are true statements. That the person you hire off the street doesn't know about chiropractic. You'll never find out unless you take the time to train him and motivate him. And that the guy, because he graduated and shows you his sheepskin or paprika skin or whatever it is that he's showing you, does not make him a chiropractor because he was never taught chiropractic by chiropractors. So you have to sit down and drill and motivate him to do the job that you want him to do. Now, there is a big trend today. People are opening up multi-clinics. They used to be taboo because there was enough problems just to have one with one girl. Now we've got 3 and 4 and 5 associates and 25 girls, and then we're going to open another office, and pretty soon we've got a string of 7-Elevens. But then we start to see them drop off or fail or stagger, and one is carrying 3 or 4 others. There's something around stale. And the reason for that being is what I just went over with you. That we are so busy expanding, we've got to back up and decide, what am I expanding with? Now I've got to teach my folks. I've got to get them to duplicate what I do. I've got to get my girls to duplicate my thoughts. I've got to get all my associates to duplicate what I really believe and what I deliver. And if I can do that, however long it takes, then I could put him or her out here, and they would be able to run an office over here just as though I were there, and all I have to do is go in and plug in every now and then. But if I put them over here and they're not capable of duplicating me, nor do they know how or what I even do, then I can expect problems. So for those of you that are entertaining that idea, or have already entertained it and wish you hadn't, I make a strong suggestion to you that you just recall and regroup and bring your guys in once a week and have a drill. Have a meeting, what you want, what you don't want, and then have them drill. Work with them. You sit there and judge him. Did he do it or didn't he? Is he capable or isn't he capable? And once a guy gets it and you think he's got it, I'll guarantee you he'll lose it unless you bring him back in and drill him again. So it's a constant drilling effort. You see, I've been in this business a while. I never really understood chiropractic until 1968. And I learned it through DE. And I learned it through reading B.J.'s books. But I don't go hardly a day, if a day goes by, that I don't pick up B.J.'s books to read it to be sure I'm still on track. Because I could think I was, and when in fact I'm not. Because we can lose this idea and not realize it. That we can get watered down and not realize it. That we can incorporate other things because of the dollar and not realize that we're selling our souls. That we can start thinking in terms of symptoms and entertain symptoms and be selling out. And that we can stop having miracles in our office. Now let's go back to the miracle scene. There was a time, and not too many years ago, just 15 or 20 years ago, when it was commonplace for chiropractors to have miracles in their office. And the reason that they had miracles is because they knew that there was a thing called a subluxation, and they corrected that subluxation with the idea in mind that something great was going to happen. Now we've lost that concept. Many of us make an adjustment just to get rid of a patient so I'll have room for another one. Or we adjust somebody because, by God, if I stop for 1 minute, they're going to be tearing the door down. Or that it's just something I'm going to go in here and do as much of as I can, as fast as I can, without any expectations. We don't expect miracles anymore. We don't expect cross eyes to straighten. We don't expect claw hands to straighten out. We don't expect cancers to heal up. We don't expect heart problems to go in for their checkup and be sent home clean. We don't expect gangrenous ulcers to heal up in a matter of 3 or 4 weeks. We don't expect psoriasis to clear up in a matter of days. We don't expect hearing to return. What we expect, what we've got caught up in, the mass of our profession, a lot of guys that I've known for 20 years are caught up in, do you feel better, Mrs. Jones? That's a therapy. That is not the practice of chiropractic. And they have sold their butts. We're not in that business. Do you feel better, Mrs. Jones? I used to be in that business. Well, it still hurts here. I'd say, well, I'll rub here a little bit. Well, it hurts up here now. Well, I'll put some current in there now. And I'll squirt some 1,000 up your butt. Watch them. Boy, they can move. I mean, paralytics move 3 or 4 feet when you do that. But the idea is that we go in with expecting miracles. I want to see people heal. I used to have a wireless mic. And I'd flip my FM station over and I'd say, today, this is God speaking. All you people that hear bones move today will get a special healing. And they'd all get excited. And even I got excited. Then I expected it. Now you could say that's not very ethical or professional. I never told you I was any of those things. But the idea is that we expect it, you see. Here's the deal. I said this the other day, whenever we were at wherever we were, in Georgia. There was a time where I entertained. You see, I wanted to find out about healing. I want to know about that. And I wanted to be able to adjust people and see them heal up. Not necessarily before my eyes, but I liked it if it happened. But I wanted to adjust them to see what was. I expected something great to happen. I expected robbers to stop robbing and prostitutes to stop prostituting. I expected everything to change in this person's life as a result of adjustment. Not because I was doing something mechanical, but because I was doing something spiritual. Because I looked at chiropractic as a spiritual thing, and I looked at myself as a minister. And I looked at myself as a servant to the power of God that I was releasing in physical bodies through an adjustment. That's how I looked at it. And so therefore, knowing that God created the universe, and knowing that God runs and does everything, and direction, tells you what to say, and puts you where you're supposed to be, and gives you associates that you need to have, and handles your life totally and completely, both inside and outside. Then once I had that idea, then I saw no reason why I couldn't lay my hands on somebody and expect it to heal. And so I started investigating. I got into the full gospel business, man. And for those of you, when I get into something, I go. I just go. I don't like to drag around, you see. And so I got in it big, and I was on PTL, national television, and I was in Voice magazine, and I was everywhere. And I started going into churches, and I'd go into these big charismatic churches and be 2,000 or 3,000 people. And I would tell them about my relationship in chiropractic. I told them that I was ordained to be a healer through God, through using chiropractic as my vehicle. And so they just naturally expected, if I was getting in their presence, that they were going to heal up. They expected it. And now, you know, I was beginning to expect it. And so I would have them line up and we'd pray for them. Now, I didn't adjust them. Some of you will say, well, there you go. I want you to listen to what I'm saying. Don't be sitting back there running your little tally. 4 against, 3, 4. he said that, or he mispronounced that, and just put your pen down for a minute. I want you to get what I'm saying. Now, this was an experience for me. I have adjusted people already with their hands like this and seen them fly open. And I have seen miracles happen in my office. Seen little babies come back. And I always move bones. So I remember the first time I ever went to this, I went with Grassham. And I have a nephew that's paralyzed from the neck down from diving into a rock in a river. And we watched Catherine Coleman, and there was 5,000 people lined up and come down in here, all being healed up. And we wondered how many out of those 5,000 people actually got healed, if any. And we thought, you know, if we could have tables up there, how many more would have gotten healing if we'd have been up there adjusting them, instead of simply praying for them. And at that time, I didn't think about this prayer stuff so much. But as I got involved in it and I started to do it, even though I never really knew whether anything was going to happen or not, you see. But that was true in chiropractic. When I found out what chiropractic was and I started adjusting, got rid of all my mixing tools, I didn't know if anything was going to happen or not. I had never experienced it before. I didn't know what it was based on. I didn't know why it would work, if it would work. But I figured, what the heck, what I was doing thus far wasn't doing so hot, I'll try something else. But I didn't have that problem here. I wanted to introduce something else. I wanted to see if there was something else going here. And so, I started praying for people. I touched a woman one time in a little church, and I thought she had an epileptic seizure. And I didn't even believe in this stuff. She flopped on the floor, bounced on the floor. I thought she was dying. See, I want to get water and throw on her. Well, they told me she was having some kind of experience, you know, spiritual experience. I said, oh, God, I hope I don't have one of them. You know, I got people coming in and goddamn, they're giving them Dilan. But anyway, she flopped around like a chicken, jumped up and started screaming. I said, oh, now she probably broke her neck when she fell down. And she started saying, I can hear, that she had a perforated eardrums and couldn't hear for 14 years, and now she could hear. I said, oh, I don't know about that. I didn't buy it. So then I went to another big place, and I had a bunch of young people. This is full guy from a businessman. There was a lady over there with a wig on, dark glasses, just crippled up, couldn't move. She just had her battery of chemotherapy. She had about 2 weeks to live. She had been flown in to go to her grandson's wedding. It was down in Maryland. And they all lined up. All these young kids lined up for me to pray for them. Isn't that wild? Me. If they knew me, would they ask me to pray for them? But anyway, they came up and we started praying. Young people. I was impressed by that. And then this guy pushes this woman over, and I laid my hands on her, and I prayed for her, and I went back to my task. In about 10 minutes, people were screaming, and there's this woman who couldn't move, getting up out of her chair, walked over, put her arms around me with tears in her eyes, and said, I'm healed. And we followed up on her for 2 years. She was healed of cancer. She died of a heart attack. She went back to work. We got to die of something, but it wasn't what she was going to do. But you see, I want you to get a point here. And then I said, you know, if this can happen, then there's nothing that can stop me. So I had a lady come in with a broken leg. She just broke it. She had muscular dystrophy. She came in and I prayed for her, and she came back in the next day without the cast. She said that something clicked, and now she was healed. So I said, I don't understand it. I mean, I've heard it, and it's happening, but I don't get it. I didn't move any bones in these people. How did that happen? So I started to research. The only place I know to research. It's not Merck's Manual or Geps and Flippins or any of those deals. I went to the Green Books. And I started reading to find out what BJ had to say about this. And I found it. And what BJ said was this, that prayer causes an induction and a production and a reduction. That by praying for somebody, there is an induction so that there is a rise in innate intelligence that produces energy that reduces subluxations. And so I was clearing subluxations. And when I understood that, then I understood a little better what my role was. And so you see, what I did from that point, I said, I don't want to be just a numbers person. I like numbers. I like large volumes. But I want to start seeing things happen. I want more and more beautiful things happening. I want people bringing in their babies dead and then see them coming back. I want purple babies coming in, unconscious. I want to see people coming in with a variety of things, and I want to see something happening now. I don't want to wait. And so what I started doing is I started expecting it. And then I had the gall to get other people to expect it, called patience. Then I'd go out in the waiting room. I spent a lot of time in my waiting room, shouting, having meetings, see. I mean, I wait till it filled up, and I'd run out there and we'd have a shouting match. And I'd go back in and say, come on. And they'd come in, and they'd come in with the idea that Sigafoose has flipped his cookie, or he's got something special going today. He's running a special. And so we started seeing that happen. And we started attracting babies, little dying babies out of the hospital. And we started seeing things happen. We started having 22 terminally ill people carried into the office. 11 of them lived and are still alive to my knowledge today. We started getting cataracts clearing up. We started having hearing aids dropping off. We started having gangrenous ulcers and having weak people come on walkers with large, large knees and crippled up hands that in 30 days were walking just like you and I. And nothing changed but me. My expectation rose. My recognition of the power that was in the individual rose, realizing that it can really, truly do miraculous things, with or without me. And that by me introducing this concept to these people, by them having a greater expectation, we created an induction, and therefore we had a production and a reduction, and we had miracles popping off right and left. And I got excited all over again. And I really started going nuts. Then I went around and started collecting all the preachers and trying to convert them to chiropractic. Then I got on a TV show, and I started bringing people in, having them testify about being adjusted and how to heal up. And all I'm trying to get you to understand is this, gang. That chiropractic is chiropractic based on the reduction of a subluxation. And that there's a power inside of the body that's capable of healing everybody and anybody at any time of anything. That maybe we have lost the vision of that. That maybe we've weakened our position and gotten too far into politics or too far into expansion for money or too into ego or too much into to recognition or too much into something. That we've forgotten the simplicity of this thing. We've forgotten the simplicity that there is a magnificent power called God within each individual that's capable of doing anything at any time, for any reason. And that if you and I realize that, and each time we come into the presence of somebody, because I'm somebody special, I don't know about you, because I was ordained by God to be what I am. And I've gone through the high times, and I've gone through the low times. And I've gone through the material things, and I've gone through the immaterial things. And I've had my series of material problems and marital problems and children problems. I've had my share of living on planet Earth. But I've had my share of victories. And my victories came when I decided that I was going to expect it. Not from me and not from you, but from that invisible power that created us and runs us and coordinates us and gives us all the things that we really want if we expect it. And so I all of a sudden took on a new stature, a new meaning to myself, that I was more important than I was before, that I have a great deal to do yet. I have a lot of lives to change, and a lot of lives to touch, and a lot of fixed ideas to break through, a lot of attitude shifting. And it's not into more education, not into more techniques, not into more man's opinions. It's a denuding of those things. It's a getting rid of those things and going back and stripping it down and bringing it in and saying, brother, it's just between me and God. And I expect it. I expect it here. I expect the ladies here that don't know anything about chiropractic to learn about chiropractic. I expect the wives who have pockets full of pills to throw their pills out. I expect the doctors who are only seeing 200 or 300 or 400 people a week with the real desire to see 1,000 or 1,500 a week to start doing it because they expect it. Not because you're going to do it, because you can. Not because somebody else is going to do it for you because they can. But simply because you know for a fact that this thing called God, this creator of life, the organizer of material things, will organize and create for you on an individual basis if you expect. Now here's an interesting phenomenon. I started taking all of BJ's works, and then I read BJ, and I run over into the Bible and try to find out if they parallel. And the interesting thing was everything BJ said, though he used a little different terminologies in the Bible. Then in a chapter in The Bigness of the Fellow Within, there's a chapter on selling yourself. Selling yourself simply means to present yourself as you are, as you wish to be, as you feel, not the way other people think you ought to be. Growing your hair long, dressing differently, talking different, hopping, skipping, doing whatever it is that you wish, so that when you go through a crowd, whether they like you, whether they don't like you, you sold yourself to them because they remember you. Then he talked about visions, and he started saying you got to have a vision. You got to be able to visualize that which you wish. You got to be able to see it. And then I went into the Bible, and the Bible talks about it in terms of faith. And faith is the ability to be able to see things as you wish them to be in the spirit world, not the way they are in the material world. And so then I ran upon a little book. Matter of fact, I think it was affiliated with Zig Ziglar. And in this book, Zig Ziglar is talking about the growing bamboo. And that you plant a bamboo tree, and you have to water it every day just the right way. You have to weed it. You have to cultivate it just right each day for 5 years, and there's no growth. So you don't know whether you're doing it right. You don't know if you're doing it wrong. You just don't know what you're doing. But you keep doing it in faith.